Let's begin by offering our respects to His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Okay, so what did we see in the previous class? We are on chapter number
10.
Chapter number 10. What's the title of chapter 10?
Opulence of the Absolute.
Opulence of the Absolute. So what did we see in the previous class? We saw Arjuna accepting Krishna's position. What does he say? Does he accept a certain percentage only? Or he accepts all that Krishna says?
All that Krishna says.
Yeah, he says, I accept as truth all that you have said. So this is how we need to also understand and accept the Bhagavad Gita. Although we may not be able to understand all of it, although we may not be able to put everything into practice as yet, still we accept as truth everything that Krishna says. In this mood, we read the Gita. Okay, and then Arjuna makes a certain request. What is the request of Arjuna?
That I want to hear about your opulences.
Yes, and how he wants to hear about him in detail. He says Vistarena, no, in detail. So then what does Krishna say? Does Krishna accept Arjuna's request?
Yes.
Partially, yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
partially, because he says that I will only tell you some of my opulences, those which are more prominent. Why? Because Krishna says my opulences are unlimited, ananta. Therefore, he just begins to list the more prominent opulences of himself. Okay. Right. So we saw till verse 30. Today we have to begin from 31. Before that, please repeat Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om
Om
Namo
Namo
Bhagavate
Bhagavate
Vasudevaya.
Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate
Om Namo
Vasudevaya.
Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om
Om
Namo
Namo
Bhagavate
Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Vasudevaya.
Can I read Mataji?
Yes, Mataji, of course. We missed you in the previous class,
Om Namo
Mataji.
Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
I can't make it. I'm so sorry.
No problem. Okay, so let's begin from 10.31. Let's hear the audio first. 1 second. Okay, I need to bring it up. 1 second.
Vinateyascha Pakshinam
Okay, so now 31.
पवनः पवतामस्मि रामः शस्त्रभृतामहम् झषाणां मकरश्चास्मि स्रोतसामस्मि जानवी.
Translation. Of purifiers, I am the wind. Of the whittlers of weapons, I am Rama. Or of fishes, I am the shark. And of following rivers, I am the Gangas.
So of purifiers, I'm the wind, says Krishna. So remember here, Krishna is listing his prominent opulences. He's giving groups of people or objects, and he says the most prominent amongst them, the opulence of that represents my opulence, right? So we are in that section. So Krishna here, he continues and he says, of the purifiers, I am the wind. There are many, many purifying agents, but when it comes to the wind takes away with it the dust, the dirt, even bad aromas, everything the wind can take away and purify the place. So he says, of purifiers, I am the wind. Of the wielders of weapons, I am Rama. Now we know at least three Ramas. One is Lord Ramachandra from the Ramayana. The other is Parashuram, and the other is Balaram. Now, all these three Ramas, they have very, very powerful weapons. No, Lord Ramachandra, what is the weapon that he uses?
Dhanushban.
No arrow.
The bow and the arrow. Then Parashuram,
I don't know what it's called, but it's a heavy thing. It's like a
Axe.
an
axe,
axe.
yeah.
Yes, he uses an axe. With his axe, he wiped out the Kshatriyas 21 times. Isn't it? That how powerful is his weapon? And then Balaram, of course, he uses the
Gada.
plow, not Gada, the plow.
No, sorry. No.
Yes. Okay. So then, of course, we know that Lord Ramachandra, he never misuses his weapon because he's Maryada Purushottam Ram. No? So he does not misuse his weapon. Neither do the other two, of course, but more specifically, Lord Ramachandra, because he is Maryada Purushottam. Okay, of fishes, I am the shark. Now, of all the aquatics, the shark is one of the largest and definitely the most ferocious and most dangerous aquatic. So Krishna says, of fishes, I am the shark, and of flowing rivers, I am the Ganges. Let's see a little bit about the origin of the Ganges river. We know that Mahavishnu, he is lying in the causal ocean or the Karana Dakashai ocean or the Viraja river, which is lying in between the material and the spiritual worlds. And by his breathing, he is creating these universes from every pore of his skin. Now, each of this universe, which is called as a Brahmand, is egg-shaped. That's why the name Brahma and Anda. Brahmand is a combination of these two words. Because these universes are egg-shaped, it's called as Brahman. And of course, Lord Brahma is living in the highest planet inside the material universe, and he is in charge of the secondary creation or Visarga. Now here, within each universe, there are these 14 planetary systems that exist, which we have discussed before. And if you see in the top left corner are the various coverings of this universe. Now, each of these coverings are very, very thick layers, and there are 7 coverings across each, around each universe. Let's read a little bit about these coverings.
Bhagavad Gita 6:16.37. Every universe is covered by these 7 layers: earth, water, fire, air, sky, total energy, and false ego, each 10 times greater than the previous one. There are innumerable universes besides this one, and although they are unlimitedly large, they move about like atoms in you. Bhagavad Gita 6:16-37. This verse describes the coverings of the universe. Sapta Vir Dasha Guta I don't know how to anyhow. Anand quotes. The first covering is earth, the second is water, the third is fire, the fourth is air, the fifth is sky, the sixth is the total material energy, and the seventh is the false ego. Bhagavad Gita 2, Bhagavatam 2:28. The extent of the cosmic phenomena is calculated to be dramatically both ways 4 billion miles. Then the coverings of the universe begin. The first stratum of the covering is calculated to extend 80 million miles, and the subsequent coverings of the universe are respectively of fire, effulgence, air, and ether, one after another, each extending 10 times further than the previous. Hare Krishna.
So the extent of the cosmic phenomenon is 4 billion miles. So if you see the diagram, the innermost circle of this diagram is the diameter of our universe, which is 4 billion miles in diameter, both ways. Now, when we have to see the coverings of the universe, which we saw in this picture, the coverings, each covering is 10 times thicker than the previous one. The first covering is that of, what is the first covering? Based on what we read?
Earth.
Earth. And what is the thickness of this earth covering?
4
80.
billion miles.
80 million miles, it says in the last paragraph. See, the first stratum of the covering is calculated to extend 80 million miles. So the first thing covering is 80 million miles, and then the second is 10 times more than the first. The third is 10 times more than the second. Like that, we have 7 coverings. So the entire universe, the Brahman itself, is several quadrillion miles in diameter. What is the point we are trying to make is, all these thick layers was penetrated by Vamanadev. When Vamanadev lifted his leg to take the 3 steps, right, the first and the second one, and he extended his leg, the tip of his toenail penetrated through all these 7 layers. And then what happens? What is lying beyond these layers of covering? All these Brahmans, they are floating in which ocean?
Milky Ocean.
Which ocean?
Garbhodaya.
The Milky Ocean.
Not
Coral
the
Ocean.
Karanodakashai ocean, or the causal ocean, right?
Coral
So
Ocean.
yeah, so let's try to picturize this. Within, now Vamanadev is within one universe, within our universe, and he is extending his leg and he's penetrating through all these thick layers of covering. And what is lying beyond this one bubble is where all these bubbles are floating, and which is the Karanodakashai ocean. So what has happened is, when he has penetrated these layers, the ocean, the causal ocean, has penetrated and has entered the universe. Okay, here you can see a picture. So this Ganges river is coming from there. That's where it's originating from, because the causal ocean, when it leaks through the various layers of these of the universe, it starts to enter the universe and it goes down the heavenly planets. And also, when Vamanadev extended his foot, Lord Brahma, he washed the feet of Vamanadev with the water in his water pot, or kamandalu. And so that causal water is getting mixed with the water which was used by Lord Brahma to wash the feet of Vamanadev. So the Ganges is a combination of both these. So the Ganges is that water which is coming from the lotus feet of the Lord. That's why in the Bhagavatam it is described that this water takes a pink color at the source, because of the red powder with which the feet of the Lord is decorated. Also, the Ganges water has the aroma of tulsi leaves, because the Lord is worshipped with tulsi leaves offered to his feet. So therefore, because it is touching the lotus feet of the Lord, it takes the aroma of the leaves of tulsi. Let's read this.
Bhagavatam 8:21. For O King, the water from the Lord Brahma's Kamandala washed the lotus feet of the Lord Vaman Dev, who is known as Urkakarma, the wonderful actor. Thus, that water became so pure that it was transformed into the water of the Gangas, which went flowing down from the sky, purifying the three worlds like the pure fame of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Purport. Here we understand that the Gangas began when the water from the Lord Brahma's Kamandala washed the lotus feet of Lord Vamandev. But in the fifth canto, it is stated that the Gangas began when Vamandev's left foot pierced the covering of the universe so that the transcendental water of the casual ocean leaked through. And elsewhere, it is also stated that Lord Narayana appeared as the water of the Gangas. The water of the Gangas, therefore, is a combination of three transcendental waters, and thus the Gangas is able to purify the three worlds. This is the description given by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Hare
So we see how the Ganges is a combination of three waters. One is, we already saw how the causal ocean leaked through when Vamanadev pierced through the coverings of the universe. Two, the water that was used by Lord Brahma to wash the feet of Lord Vamanadev. So it is touching the Lord's lotus feet before it comes down. And then three, it is stated that Lord Narayan himself appears as the water of the Ganges. So the Ganges is a combination of these three transcendental waters. That's the reason why the Ganges has extraordinary properties. If one has to give up the body, ideally, one should give up the body by the side of the Ganges water. And if that is not possible, at least the mortal remains of the person, the ashes of the person should be put in the water of the Ganges so that the person can attain a higher destination. In 1895, there was a British bacteriologist who wrote a paper. He wrote an article on the extraordinary antibacterial properties of the Ganges, how people who take bath in the Ganges river every day, they can be cured of so many diseases also. And these properties are not there in any other river, only the Ganges. And of course, his article was on the Ganges and also on the river Yamuna. The river Yamuna also very, very auspicious because that's where Lord Krishna sported his so many of his pastimes, so many of his leelas in the waters of the Yamuna river. Okay, but after this incident, the Ganges was flowing only, the Ganges water came from the causal ocean, it trickled down and was in the heavenly planets. How did the Ganges come from the heavenly planets to Earth? There is a story behind that. Let's read that as well. Here.
King Sagara performed Ashwamedh sacrifices, but the horse needed for such a sacrifice was stolen by Indra. The king of heaven, King Sagara, had two wives named Sumiti and Ishani. While searching for the horse, the sons of Sumiti extensively dug up the surface of the earth and in this way dug a trench which later became known as the Sagara Ocean. In the course of this search, they came upon the great personality Kapila Dev and thought him to have stolen the horse. With this offensive understanding, they attacked him and were all burned to ashes. Kishani, the second wife of King Sakara, had a son named Asamajas, whose son Amu, Amshuman later searched for the horse and delivered his uncles. Upon approaching Kapiladev, Ashwam, Ashwam, Amushaman, Amuna, whatever his name is, saw both the horse meant for sacrifice and a pile of ashes. Anshuman offered prayers to Kapiladev, who was very pleased by his prayers and who returned the horse. After getting back the horse, however, Anshuman still stood before Kapiladev, and Kapiladev could understand that Anshuman was praying for the deliverance of his forefathers. Thus, Kapiladev offered the instruction that they could be delivered by the water from the Gangas. Anshuman then offered respectful obeisances to Kapiladev, circumvented him, and left that place. with the horse of sacrifice. When King Sagara finished his yagna, he handed over the kingdom to Anshuman and attained salvation. Hare Krishna.
So the problem here is that the 60,000 sons of Sagara, they are not attaining salvation. They are not attaining liberation because they offended Kapila Muni and they were burnt. It's not that Kapila Muni has burnt them down. Srila Prabhupada explains this if you read the chapter in the Bhagavatam, Srila Prabhupada explains that Kapila Muni, he's, of course, he's a supreme personality of Godhead. And he did not burn them into ashes. Because they offended him, their body was ignited. Okay, so now how are these 60,000 sons going to attain salvation? Let's see what happens next.
The son of Maharaj Amshuman was Dilipa, who tried to bring the Gangas to this world but who died without success. Bhagirath, the son of Dilpa, was determined to bring the Gangas to the material world, and for this purpose he underwent severe austerities. Mother Gangas, being fully satisfied by his austerities, made herself visible to him, wanting to give him a benediction. Bhagirath then asked her to deliver his forefathers. Although Mother Gangas agreed to come down to earth, she made two conditions. First, she wanted some suitable male to be able to control her waves. Second, although all sinful men would be freed from sinful reactions by bathing in Gangas, Mother Gangas did not want to keep all these sinful reactions. These two conditions were subject matters for consideration. Bhagirath replied to Mother Gangas, the personality of Godhead Lord Shiva will be completely able to control the waves of your water, and when pure devotees bathe in your water, the sinful reactions left by sinful man will be counteracted. Bhagirath then performed austerity to satisfy Lord Shiva, who is called Ashutosh, because he is naturally satisfied very easily. Lord Shiva agreed to Bhagirath's proposal to check the force of the Gangas. In this way, simply by the touch of the Gangas, Bhagirath's forefathers were delivered and followed to go to the heavenly planets and allowed to go to the heavenly planets. Bhagavad Gita 9:9 summary excerpt. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
So we see how Maharaj Anshuman was given the solution as to how these 60,000 sons of Sagara could be delivered. How? If the Ganges was brought down, he said. Now Anshuman's son Dilipa, he tried to bring the Ganges down, but he passed away before he could attain success. And then Dilipa's son Bhagirath, he did a lot of tapasya. And he prayed to the Mother Ganges. Mother Ganges, then she said, okay, I'm willing to come, but then I have these two conditions. What are the two conditions? One, somebody will have to reduce the force with which she's going to fall. Otherwise, the earth is going to crush under her weight. And two, she is not ready to remain with all the sinful reactions of the people who are going to come and bathe in her. So now again, Bhagirath has again done a lot of tapasya to please Lord Shiva. And then Lord Shiva agrees to take the Ganges on his head and to reduce the force with which she will fall on earth. And the other condition of Mother Ganges, that she doesn't want to stay with all the sinful reactions of all the sinful people who are going to bathe in her waters. What was the solution? That when the saintly people take bath in her water, that will counteract the sins of the sinful people. So like this, after a lot of efforts, finally the Ganges is brought to earth. So this Ganges water is not ordinary river. It is really very transcendental. Okay.
I had a question.
Yes.
So, why is it like converted from Ganga to Ganges? Like, why the name has been like that?
No, I think Ganges must be the name more probably given by the Britishers. Ganga is more Hindi, Sanskrit, and the Ganges is known by different names in different places also. On earth, the Ganges is known as Bhagirathi.
Mm.
In heaven, it is called as Mandakini. And in the hellish planet, it is called as Bhogavati. So there are different names that are acquired by the river. Okay, 10.32.
सर्गाणामादिरन्तश्च मध्यं चैवाहमर्जुन अध्यात्मविद्या विद्यानां वादः प्रवदतामहम्.
Translation. Of all creation, I am the beginning and end, and also the middle. O Arjun, of all offices, of all sciences, I am the spiritual science of the self, and among logicians, I am the conclusive truth. Hare Krishna.
Of all creations, I am the beginning, the end, and also the middle. So previously, if we recall, Krishna said that he is the beginning and the middle and the end of all the living entities. We saw that in the previous class. Now he is saying that he is the beginning, the middle, and the end of all creations. So not only is he the beginning, middle, and end of the living entities, of those that are living, those that have life, even those objects that don't have life, all creations, he says, he is the beginning, middle, and end. Then what does he say? Of all sciences, I am the spiritual science of the truth. So of all the vidyas, all the knowledge, he is that knowledge which gives us spiritual knowledge. Why? Because it is spiritual knowledge, or the knowledge that we are the spirit souls, which is the beginning of spiritual knowledge. That is, with that knowledge only we can attain the goal of human life. So he's saying of all the vidyas, he is Adhyatma Vidya. He is the knowledge, he is the spiritual science of the self. Amongst the logicians, I am the conclusive truth. So of all the pravadams, of all the arguments, he is Vada. Now there are three kinds of pravadas. Let's read what they are.
Japala Vinda Vada. Naya, okay. Navya logic teaches different ways to reach a conclusion. They are Jalpa, Vitanda, and Vada. Jalpa, bad argument. Aim is to gain victory. The debtor may purposely find fault with the opponent's statement in order to establish his own argument as correct. Vitanda, merely trying to defeat one's opponent is called Vitanda. This quibbling or merely destructive arguments in which one tries to defeat the opponent by any means possible does nothing substantially to positively prove one's own thesis. Instead all the focus is on putting the opponent down. Both Jalpa and Vitanda avoid proper deliberation on the truth the debtor can use for the establishment of his own position and for the refutation of the opponent's thesis. Unfair means as frivolous arguments, presenting false facts, inventions, etc. The main consideration is not necessarily determining the truth, only winning matters. Vada is an honest debate carried out fairly according to standard rules. It is actual conclusion. The conclusion does not contradict a tenet or accepted doctrine. Siddhanta. Aim is to establish the conclusive truth. This conclusive truth is a representation of Krishna. Hare Krishna.
So we see out of these three different kinds of debates or arguments, the best is Vad. Because in Jalpa and Vitanda, the goal is not to establish the truth. The goal is just to, in the case of Jalpa, the goal is I am right. So in order to prove that I am right, I can come with any kind of arguments, even false arguments. Vitanda, what is the goal? The goal is you are wrong. At any cost, I want to prove that my opponent is wrong. So that is Vitanda. But Vad is an honest debate, which is carried out by two very fair individuals. And the goal is to establish that which is the truth. So therefore, Vad is the best form of argument. And Krishna said that amongst all pravadas, amongst all arguments, he is Vad. Okay, let's go to 10:33.
सर्वाक्षराणामकारोऽस्मि द्वन्द्वः सामासिकस्य च अहमेवाक्षयः कालो धाताहं विश्वतो मुखः.
Translation. Of the letters I am the letter A, and among compound words I am the dual compound. I am also exhaustible time, and of creators I am Brahma. Hare Krishna.
Of letters, I am the letter A. Now you take the alphabets, A, E. I'm sorry. These are the vowels. The alphabets are K, K, G, G. So when you say K, it's a combination of K plus A is K. K again, a combination of K, H, A plus A is K. G, G plus A is G. So like that, all these alphabets have the A sound in them. Without the A sound, we cannot form any alphabet. So therefore, he says, of the letters, I am the letter A. Among the compound words, I am the dual compound. Now, what are compound words? Compound words are words that are formed by combining two words. And then from that combination, a third word is formed. For example, lap plus top gives you laptop. Or make plus up gives you makeup. So by combining two words, you get a third word. These are called compound words. Now there are, in the Sanskrit language, there are 6 kinds of compound words. The best of the 6, Krishna says, I am the dual compound. How is a dual compound superior to the other compound words? Is because in a dual compound, both the words have the same importance. For example, when we say Ram Krishna, then both words are equally important. Or when we say Radha Krishna, both words are equally important. Or when we say Mata Pita, both are equally important. So these are dual compounds. In other compound words, one word may have more importance than the other word. Or sometimes two words have nothing to do with the third word that is being formed. So like that, Krishna says, amongst the compound words, I am the dual compound. Then he says, I am the inexhaustible time. Now, time is that element which exhausts everybody else. Everybody else gets tired, but time itself never gets exhausted. Time is never going to be tired. Time just continues to move forward with the same force, with the same energy. Time is that element which exhausts everybody else, but it does not get exhausted. And of the creators, I am Brahma. There are different kinds of creators. There are people, so many people. Probably somebody has created a building, a bridge, somebody is building something. But of all these creators that exist, the greatest creator is Brahma, because he is in charge of Visarga, or the secondary creation of the universe. What is the name of Brahma that we learned from this shloka?
Mukha.
Mukha?
Vishwata Mukha.
Vishwata Mukha, yes. Vishwata Mukha is the name of Lord Brahma. What does that mean?
Is it like Mukha? I think it's the face of the universe, because Vishwa is the world, I guess.
Yes. So Vishwata is the universe. Mukha means face. So Vishwata Mukha means he who has his face in all directions. Okay, so Lord Brahma can look in all directions. Our Lord Brahma, the Lord Brahma of our universe, has how many heads?
3
3?
or 4?
4.
I think
It's four.
four.
Yeah,
It's 4.
4.
And
Yes.
one at the back.
Yes, right. So our Lord Brahma has 4 heads. Therefore, he is also called as Chaturmukha. Okay, our Lord Brahma is also called as Chaturmukha because he has 4 heads. But Brahmas of other universes, they have 10, 10,000, 10 million, 100 million, and several million heads. Because our universe is the smallest. The calculations that we saw of those thick coverings of the size of the universe, it is of our universe. It is of the smallest universe that exists. Okay, so here time exhausts everyone, but never gets exhausted. So one may be physically tired, mentally tired, emotionally drained out, but time never gets exhausted. That's why Krishna says that he is inexhaustible time. And we also understand that God is not a being who exists in time. He is the being because of whom time exists. Okay, time exists because of Krishna. Krishna is not some distant person from the past and he is not valid anymore. Oh, now all these things do not apply in this modern age. No, he is not existing in time. It is because of him that time exists. Okay.
मृत्युः सर्वहरश्चाहम् उद्भवश्च भविष्यताम् कीर्तिः श्रीवाक्च नारीणाम् स्मृतिर्मेधा धृतिः क्षमा.
Translation: I am all devouring, that I am the generating principle of all that is yet to be. Among women I am fame, fortune, fine speech, memory, intelligence, steadfastness, and patience. Hare Krishna.
I am the all-devouring death, says Krishna. So Sarva Haras is the Sanskrit. Mrityu Sarva Haras. So there may be a thief who can take away something from us, maybe some jewelry, some property, some clothes, or some other belongings that we may have. But Mrityu, death, is Sarvahara. Death is something that takes everything, all devouring. It takes away everything from us, everything that we possess, including our family, our beauty, our body, even our very identification. Death takes away. One may be a great surgeon, one may be very, very highly qualified, PhD in multiple subject matters. But when death strikes and he has to take birth again, then we forget that, oh, what is my identity? Who am I? Yes. So death takes away everything from us. Therefore, Krishna is saying that I am the all-devouring death. Sarva Haras Mrityu. But not only is he that person who takes away everything, because the opulence of Krishna is not one-sided, he also immediately says that I am the generating principle of all that is yet to be. Now, Srila Prabhupada explains in the purport how the body undergoes 6 changes. The body is born, then the body grows, then the body stays for some time, and then has byproducts, children, and then starts to dwindle, and then ultimately fades away. Ultimately, there is death. But before all this can happen, what does the body need? The body needs a womb in which it's going to generate. The womb is necessary before it is born and grows and stays for time. Before all those 6 changes, the womb is required. So Krishna says, I am the generating principle. So for the soul to get the body in the womb, that also is coming from Krishna. That is also representing the opulence of Krishna. That's the reason why there may be so many couples who are medically, both husband and wife are both fit, but there is no conception. No, they are not able to conceive a child. So even doctors are bewildered. They say everything is fine. Why? Because Krishna is not sanctioning. Krishna is not sanctioning. So Krishna says, I am the generating principle of all that is yet to be. Then he mentions these different qualities, fame, fortune. So when he says among women, actually it means that these are qualities, these nouns are feminine nouns. And anybody who has these qualities, that person is glorious. So what are the qualities Krishna is mentioning here? Fame, fortune, fine speech, memory, intelligence, steadfastness, and patience. Fame. If one is famous as a righteous person, then that opulence also represents Krishna. Fortune, of course, here, good fortune. Fine speech, vak. Sanskrit is also referred to as vak. So why is Sanskrit referred to as vak? Because Sanskrit is the only language which is capable of expressing in words every single human emotion possible. This is not possible in every language. Every single human emotion, every single thought that can come to the human mind can be expressed in words in the Sanskrit language. So anyway, fine speech is also a good quality that can make a person glorious. If a person can speak very politely, very nicely, then that is also another quality that makes a person glorious. Memory, we learn something, but the ability to retain what we have learned, that is memory. Intelligence, the ability to put into practice that which we have learned, that is intelligence. We may learn the Gita, but if we are not putting it into practice, then we are less intelligent. So intelligence is to put into practice that which we have learned. Steadfastness, to remain firm, not fickle. Okay, today I chant 16, tomorrow I chant 0. No. And patience, to have a balance in joy and sorrow. One has to be patient. So here Krishna is mentioning these qualities which makes a person glorious. So we are all born. Here why we are discussing death is because Krishna says that he is the all-devouring death. So we are all born accused with a death sentence. So we know that how criminals, somebody he's, let's say he has committed very serious crime and the court has passed an order that you will be hanged to death on such a date. But even all of us are born with a death sentence because Krishna has given us, or our own karmic reactions, according to our own karmic reactions, the date of our death is already fixed. So we are also born with a death sentence. Life is a disaster movie in slow motion. This is a very nice article written by Chaitanya Charan Prabhu. Let us read about this.
Life is a disaster movie in slow motion. Disaster movies generally show people caught in a natural disaster trying heroically to save themselves and others from impending doom. However, not many of the people who like to watch disaster movies would like to be caught in an actual disaster themselves, as there is no guarantee of a fairy tale ending. All of us are already living in a real life disaster. 100% of the people reading this will be wiped out 100 years from today. Bhagavad Gita 10:34 reminds us how the disastrous feature of the world known as that devours everyone without exception. Despite the 10% casualty rate, most of us don't feel that life is like a disaster movie because the movie of life unfolds in slow motion. So we forget the direction of its motion. The reality of that is inconceivable and unpleasant for us. It ruins our hopes for success and glory in this world, so we want to forget it, and forget we do. But even if we forget it, the disaster movie is for real, and we are not speculators. We dream of being victorious and of being victims, but end up being victims. We don't have to be victims though. Gita wisdom informs us that the real jurisdiction of that extends only to the body, not to the soul. So when we realize our spiritual identity by practicing devotional service, that changes from the horrible disaster to a welcome transfer to the internal blissful kingdom of where there are no disaster. Chaitanya Charan Das, Hare Krishna.
So life is a disaster movie in slow motion. Now he explains, Chaitanya Charan Prabhu is explaining that how when we watch a disaster movie, we don't want to be caught in that disaster ourselves. For example, when we are watching Titanic and we see the boat the ship is being cut into two and everybody is slipping into the cold waters. We don't imagine and we don't want to be in that position. We don't want to be in that ship where we are slipping into the cold waters of that ocean, isn't it? But we are a part of a disaster movie. We are slipping into the ocean of birth and death. But just because it is going on in slow motion, we don't realize it. We forget that we are actually slipping into the ocean of birth and death. But what is the good news? The good news is that if we practice devotional service, then that death doesn't mean that we are going to slip into the ocean of birth and death. It means that we are going to be transferred. We are going to be transferred from the material realm to the spiritual realm. That is the good news. Okay, one more article by Chaitanya Charan Prabhu.
when the immediate encroaches repeatedly on the unlimited, need an immediate reality check, get real. We often get caught in the ex- exigencies and emergencies that keep coming up in our lives. Despite knowing the importance of developing our relationship with Krishna, we are just not able to allocate time for it. When this unfortunate pattern becomes repeated, it is sure sign that immediate is becoming the enemy of the ultimate. No doubt emergencies do crop up occasionally. At such times, our worldly obligations cannot and should not be avoided or postponed. But if emergency crop up daily, then we need to get real and prioritize appropriately. We may feel that we are giving priority only to things that are unavoidable, but we need to firmly remind ourselves that nothing is more unavoidable than that. As that grateful moment, our immediate worldly do's will no longer count because the ultimate will have become the immediate. But by then it will be too late to do much about the unlimited ultimate. We need to voluntarily make the unlimited the immediate by allocating adequate time for it in our schedule. Intelligence is not squander the internal for the sake of the temporary. Instead, we need to maturely balance both. Hare Krishna.
So when the immediate encroaches repeatedly on the ultimate, what is the ultimate? Ultimately,
The death that's coming,
yes,
it is
ultimately death is going to strike us. So ultimately, what we have to do before death strikes us?
we have to know our identity, which is the soul.
And
Devotion practice.
practice, put it into practice just to know, okay, I know that I'm spirit soul, but therefore what I have to do, what do I have to do to that? I have to engage in devotional service to make the most of this human life. So that is the ultimate reality. But what happens when the immediate encroaches repeatedly on the ultimate? Now, immediate, we may have some material duties. Okay, for a student, I have to study, or I have to go for a job, I have to support so many people, or I have to take care of my family. I have a small child. I have to take care of my children. All right, these are our immediate duties, no doubt. We have to take care of it. But if it is so happening that time and again we are postponing our spiritual duties to take care of our material duties, then we need a reality check. Because then when are we going to start off devotional practices? Human nature, we put it for later. Okay, later we will engage in bhakti. Later, there is a lot of time for that. Right now I have so many other things to do. I have to take care of so many other material duties. Okay, but we also have to take care of our spiritual duties. So we have to at least balance both of them. If we cannot give more time to devotional service, at least we have to give equal time. Otherwise, this is what is going to happen. We think that we are too busy throughout our lifetime with so many different things. Ultimately, death is going to hit us and it is going to be too late to think about God. So when the immediate repeatedly encroaches upon the ultimate, we need an immediate reality check. Okay, 10.35.
बृहत्साम तथा साम्नां गायत्री छन्दसामहं मासानां मार्गशीर्षोऽहं ऋतूनां कुसुमाकरः.
translation of the hymns in the Samaveda. I am the Bharata Sama, and the end of the poetry. I am the Gayatri of the months. I am the Magshira, November, December. End of the seasons. I am flower bearing spring. Hare Krishna.
Of the hymns in the Samaveda, I am the Brihat Sama. Previously, Krishna said that of all the Vedas, he is the Samaveda. Now he's saying of the hymns in the Samaveda, I am the Brihat Sama. So Brihat Sama is an exquisitely melodious song of the Samaveda. Of the poetry, he says, I am the Gayatri. Now in Sanskrit, there are many rules and regulations, and the poetry in Sanskrit especially, there are rules and regulations, and they to how they should rhyme correctly and all that stuff. So there is a set of rules and regulations, and of all the poetries, the Gayatri is the most perfect in terms of how it rhymes, etc. So therefore, Krishna says, of the poetry, I am the Gayatri. When we receive second initiation in ISKCON, then we receive the Gayatri mantras. Of the months, I am Marga Shisha, November and December. Usually in India, this is the time when the grains are collected and people are very happy. So therefore, he says, of the months, I am Marga Shisha, November and December. Of the seasons, I am the flower-bearing spring. The spring season is the season that is the favorite of everyone. It is not too hot. It is not too cold. So therefore, Krishna says, of the seasons, I am the flower-bearing spring. 36.
द्यूतं चलयतामस्मि तेजस्तेजस्विनामहम् जयोऽस्मि व्यवसायोऽस्मि सत्त्वं सत्त्ववतामहम्.
Translation: I'm also the gambling of cheats and of the splendid. I am the splendor, I am victory, I am adventure, and I am the strength of the strong. Hare Krishna.
I'm the gambling of cheats. Now, usually, if we know that somebody is a cheater and he cheats people, then we stay away from that person because we don't want to get cheated by the person. So we maintain a distance. We stay away from cheats. But if there is a cheater who everybody knows is a cheater, and still people are willing to be cheated from that person, people are willing to participate in that whole process of cheating, then that shows the extraordinary cunningness of the cheater. And this is what happens in the gambling houses, in the casinos. Now, casino is a place which is designed to cheat us. Casino is not designed for people to gain money out of it. Casinos are so designed that people will eventually lose than they would gain. That's why you will never hear of a casino going bankrupt. Because if casinos are designed so that people can win money, then they would go bankrupt, isn't it? So these are places which openly are cheating people, and people are willingly participating in that cheating process. So it shows the extraordinary cunningness of the casino. So Krishna says of the gambling he's the gambling of cheats, because in the gambling houses they are expert cheaters. And of the splendid, I am the splendor. If we see a person who is very charismatic, maybe, when they speak, they just listen to that person. They are so in tune with, they are so stunned with the charisma of the person, so influenced by the charisma of that person. Then Krishna says that splendor of the person who's splendid, that also is because of my opulence. That is also coming from me. I am victory, I am adventure. So when we watch a match, or if we ourselves are playing a game, and when we emerge victorious, or the side that we are supporting, that side emerges victorious, then that feeling of victory, that feeling that gives us joy, that also is coming from Krishna. The adventure, the thrill in an adventure. Somebody is jumping off an airplane, and just before he can hit the ground, he opens the parachute. So that thrill in that adventure, that is also coming from Krishna. Strength of the strong, the opulence of people who are very strong, that opulence also represents Krishna. 37.
वृष्णीनां वासुदेवोऽस्मि पाण्डवानां धनञ्जयः मुनीनामप्यहं व्यासः कवीनामुशना कविः.
Translation of the descendants of Varnashi, I am Vasudev, and of the Pandavas I am Arjun. Of the sages I am Vyas, and among great thinkers I am Ushan.
Of the descendants of Vrishni, I am Vasudev. Now, Vasudev refers to
The
Krish.
Here it refers to Vishnu.
It says Krishna in Dwarika. In
the synonyms say Krishna and Dwarka. So, how is Krishna and Dwarka different from Krishna and Vrindavan? Are there two Krishnas? Is one an expansion of the other?
I think just the personality changes.
Okay, so Srila Prabhupada explains in the purport that Krishna actually never leaves Vrindavan. And the Krishna and Dwaraka is actually an expansion of Krishna and Vrindavan. So Krishna and Vrindavan is the original Krishna, Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Krishna and Dwaraka is an expansion of the Krishna who is in Vrindavan. Because Krishna actually never leaves Vrindavan. But again, Srila Prabhupada also explains that here Vasudev refers to Balaram. Vasudev means the son of Vasudev. Krishna's father is Vasudev. Of course, Vasudev has two sons, more than two sons, but principal Balaram and Krishna. Here, this Vasudev refers to Balaram. It does not refer to Krishna. Because Krishna is not talking about himself in this section. He is talking about his opulences. So here this Vasudev refers to Balaram. Balaram is also Vasudev. Balaram is also the son of Vasudev. So of the descendants of Vrishni, they belong to the Vrishni dynasty. So of the descendants of Vrishni, I am Vasudev. So here it refers to Balaram. Prabhupada explains in the purport. Then of the Pandavas, I am Arjuna. All the Pandavas are very righteous, but it was only Arjuna's chariot that Krishna pulled. So that's why Arjuna is even more special. So he says, of the Pandavas, I am Arjuna. Of the sages, I am Vyasa. Vyasadev is that sage who put all the scriptures into writing. He wrote everything on palm leaves. Now, who can do that? So, of course, it requires extraordinary opulence to be able to do that. And that opulence also represents Krishna's opulence. Amongst the great thinkers, I am Ushana. Ushana refers to Shukracharya, who is the priest of the demons. Now, Ushana or Shukracharya, he was a very far-seeing and very, very intelligent personality. Even when Vamana Dev begged for 3 steps of land from Bali Maharaj, Shukracharya warned Bali that this person is not a dwarf Brahmin. He's not an ordinary Brahmin who's just asking for 3 steps of land. He's actually the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So he warns him. So he's very intelligent and a very far-seeing person. So therefore he says, amongst the great thinkers, I am Shukracharya. 1038.
Dando dhamayatamasmi nitirasmi jigishatam maunam chaivasmi guhyanam jnanam jnanavatamaham.
Translation: among all means of suppressing lawlessness, I am punishment, and of those who seek victory, I am morality. Of secret things, I am silence, and of the wise, I am wisdom. Hare Krishna.
Amongst all means of suppressing lawlessness, I am punishment. Now, there are many ways by which we can suppress lawlessness, or we can bring people back on track, or people who are committing crimes, bring them back on track to control them. Some cases, counseling may help. In some cases, having a conversation. In some cases, teaching them, or in some cases, teaching them with our own example. Like that, there are many ways of controlling the people. But the greatest of all is punishment, danda. Because when, and that's the reason why there are prison houses in all the countries, all over the world. Because ultimately, if people are not coming under control, then they are punished. They are sent to prison. So of all the means of suppressing lawlessness, I am punishment, Krishna says. Of all those who seek victory, I am morality. This we'll discuss in the upcoming slides. Of secret things, I am silence. The best way to keep a secret is to remain silent. The best way of keeping secret is not, I tell you something, now you don't tell it to somebody else. No, this is usually the trend. But the best way to keep a secret is not to speak it, just remain silent. So he says, of secret things, I am silence. And of the wise, I am wisdom. When we see a person who's extraordinarily intelligent, what is the most attractive feature of that person is the knowledge that the person has, that makes the person attractive. So he says that of the wise, I am the wisdom. That opulence of the intelligent person, that intelligence, that also is a representation of Krishna. Now, for those who seek victory, I am morality, nitir. Now, there are three kinds of niti: Brihaspati Niti, Shukra Niti, and Kanika Niti. Let us read what this is about.
Banaspati Niti it is named after Brahaspati. Oh, can everybody hear me? Priest of the demigods. It says the end should be moral and virtuous. The means should also be moral and virtuous. No matter what someone does to you, always follow dharma from your end. Let others do bad, you do good. Yudhishthira Maharaj followed meticulously this meticulously. 2. Shukra Niti. It is named after Shukracharya, priest of the demons. As per his policy, as long as the end is good, the means does not matter. One can use bad means also for good ends. Kanika Niti. It is named after a Brahmin named Kanika who was a friend of Shakuni, maternal uncle of the Kauravas. Shakuni used Kanika to pursue Yudhishthira, who was, although attached to Duryodhana, but had some moral sense due to which he was always apprehensive towards Shakuni's evil schemes against the Pandavas. According to the Kanika Niti, if somebody is your enemy, then there should be no hesitation in adapting any means for the sake of destruction of the enemy. There is no mention of following dharma in this niti. The only objective is one's own propensity, irrespective of whether it is in harmony with the higher principles of life. Here, neither the end nor the means matter, only one's prosperity and success matters. Hare Krishna.
So the three codes of conduct or the three system of niti or morals are Brihaspati Niti, Shukra Niti, and Kanika Niti. Brihaspati Niti, the end is good and the means to get the end is also good, is also dharmic, is also righteous. Then Shukra Niti, the end is good. Sometimes the means to attain that end may or may not be good. Sometimes we have to use that path which is not very righteous. But if the end is good, then it can be used. Kanika Niti, the end is not good, the end is not righteous, and even the means is not righteous. So we see in the Mahabharata how Krishna tried to use Brihaspati Niti against Duryodhan. Not against Duryodhan, but with Duryodhan. When Krishna went as a peace messenger to Hastinapur, he said, okay, you give me 5 villages, the Pandavas will accept it, and then there will be no war. So Krishna tried to use Brihaspati Niti with Duryodhan, but because the opponent was such, because Duryodhan was such, he was not able to use Brihaspati Niti, and then the war happened, and sometimes in the war, Krishna had to use Shukra Niti. Now, in our case also, as far as possible, yes, of course, the best is Brihaspati Niti. But if the opponent is such or the situation is such that we cannot use Brihaspati Niti for whatever reason, then Shukra Niti can be used or it may be used depending on what kind of opponent or what kind of situation we are in. There may be situations where Brihaspati Niti is not possible. So Shukra Niti may be used, but at all costs, Kanika Niti must not be used at any point in time. Okay. 10:39.
यच्चापि सर्वभूतानां बीजं तदहमर्जुन न तदस्ति विना यत्स्यान् मया भूतं चराचरम्
Furthermore, O Arjuna, I am gathering seed of all existences. There is no being, moving or non-moving, that can exist without me. Hare Krishna.
So here we are in the last 4 shlokas of the chapter. In these last 4 shlokas are a summary of the entire chapter. So we will see some repetition. Here Krishna says that I am the generating seed of all existences. There is no being, moving or non-moving, that can exist without me. So here he is saying that he is both the seed as well as the sustainer, the source and the sustainer of everything. When he says I'm the generating seed, he says that he is the source of everything. And when he says that no being can exist without me, he says that he is the sustainer of everything. So he is both the source and the sustainer. That's why we have to remember that the source of our income is not the source of our maintenance. The source of our income may be the boss, but the source of our maintenance is not the boss. It is Krishna who sustains us. It is Krishna who maintains us. He is maintaining all the moving and non-moving. Even the animals in the forest, they are being maintained by Krishna. Are they going to work and earning money to earn their bread and butter? No, right? So Krishna is the one who sustains us. So here anyway, Krishna is saying that he is both the source as well as the sustainer of everything, both moving and non-moving. Here is a summary of all the opulences that he has listed from text 20 to 39. You can go through this when I share the slides. Let's go to 4.
नान्तोऽस्ति मम दिव्यानां विभूतीनां परं तप एष तुद्देशतः प्रोक्तो विभूतेर्विस्तरो मया
Translation: Almighty conqueror of enemies, there is no end to my divine manifestations. What I have spoken to you is but a mere indication of my infinite opulences. Hare Krishna.
So here Krishna is saying that there is no end to my divine manifest. So again, he's saying that his manifestations, his opulences, his vibhutis are ananta. They are unlimited. And what he's saying is what I have spoken is a mere indication. It's a mere sample of his infinite opulences. So what Krishna has said, when he says that of the creators, he is Brahma, of the great thinkers, he is Shukracharya, it does not mean that Shukracharya is equal to Krishna. It means that Shukracharya's opulence is an indication, is a mere indication of the opulence of Krishna. So it's like a sample, like a small example. It does not mean that all these people and all these personalities or all these things that Krishna has mentioned in this section, they are all equal to Krishna. No, they are only an indication of the opulences of Krishna. So what is the idea here? The idea is that Krishna is making the unfamiliar familiar by giving examples of those things that we are familiar with. So as we said in the beginning of this section, that for those people who are not able to understand Krishna from the spiritual angle of vision, then he is giving material manifestations so that we can understand Krishna's opulence. Now we can see the shark, we can see the lion, we can see the Himalayas. So therefore, by seeing how the Himalayas are unmovable, by seeing how the shark is the greatest aquatic, by seeing how the lion is the most ferocious animal in the jungle, we see this and we remember that these opulences of the shark, of the lion, etc., 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 indicates the opulence of Krishna. So he's making the unfamiliar familiar by giving us those concepts with which we are familiar, so then we can understand better. Once somebody asked Srila Prabhupada, what is the joy that one can experience in Goloka? Now, Srila Prabhupada knew that this person is a drug addict. And if Srila Prabhupada is going to tell him that the joy in Goloka is 1,000 times greater than the joy in Brahman effulgence, or in the Brahma Jyoti, is this person going to understand? No, he is not going to understand because he does not know what is Brahma Jyoti. We cannot explain the unfamiliar by giving another unfamiliar concept. So because he's a drug addict, Srila Prabhupada told him that the joy in Goloka is like floating in an ocean of LSD. LSD is a drug. So he says that it's like floating in an ocean of LSD so that he can understand. Because he's a drug addict, he knows what it would mean to float in an ocean of LSD. So Krishna is making the unfamiliar familiar by giving familiar concepts. That's what has happened in this section. 41.
यद्यद् विभूतिमत्सत्त्वं श्रीमदूर्जितमेव वा तत्तदेवावगच्छत्वं मम तेजोंशसम्भवम्.
Translation: know that all opulent, beautiful, and glorious creations spring from but a spark of my splendor. Hare Krishna.
Yat yat vibhuti mat. So all these, whatever yat yat, whatever vibhutis, whatever opulences that are existing, all the beautiful Srimad and Urjitam. Srimad beautiful, Urjitam glorious. Whatever beautiful things and whatever glorious things that you can that exist, you must know. Krishna says that they spring from but a spark of my splendor. Mama Tejo Amsa. They are just a spark, just a small tiny bit of my splendor, Krishna says. Okay, let's read this.
Bhagavad Gita 10:41. A sampling of Krishna's infinite manifestation both in the spiritual and material world. Upper circle clockwise beginning from the upper left hand corner. Indra carrying thunderbolt. The Himalayas. Lord Shiva with the Ganga's river in his hair. The moon, the horse. Uchahe Swarva. The transcendental Om Kapila Ram flower bearing spring. Kamuda. Arjun, Vyasadeva, Prahlad, and Shark, Vasuki, Shanaka, Varuna, Yamraj, and Lion, Kuvera, Agni, and Airavata. In inner circle, clockwise, beginning from four-headed Lord Brahma sitting on the lotus flower, Brahma, Narad, Garuda, the sun, the ocean, Lord Vishnu, Ananta, and the chanting of the holy names, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, 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 Hare Hare, Krishna.
So here we have a sample of the opulences that Krishna has mentioned in this section. In this one picture, you can see all of them or most of them. Okay, the last words of this chapter.
अथवा बहुनैतेन किं ज्ञातेन तवार्जुन विष्टभ्याहमिदं कृत्स्नम् एकांशेन स्थितो जगत्. ॐ तत्सदिति श्रीमद्भगवद्गीतासूपनिषत्सु ब्रह्मविद्यायां योगशास्त्रे श्रीकृष्णार्जुनसंवादे विभूतियोगो नाम दशमोऽध्यायः.
Translation: But what need is here, urgent for all this detailed knowledge, with a single fragment of myself I pervade and support this entire universe. Hare Krishna.
So Krishna is repeating the same thing again, that with a single fragment of himself, he pervades and supports this entire universe. The same thing is being repeated, but here Krishna is adding one extra point. What is the extra point that he's adding? He's saying, what need is there for all this detailed knowledge? What is the need to know all these details? The bottom line that we have to remember is that with just a single fragment of himself, he pervades and supports this entire universe. That is the bottom line. What is the need for all this detailed knowledge, Krishna says. Now see, how is he pervading and supporting this entire universe? In his form as the Paramatma. The Paramatma is pervading into every living entity. Yes, so that is a single fragment of Krishna. We have discussed this chart before, how from Krishna's first expansion, Balaram, From Balaram come the first quadruple expansions, Vasudev, Sankarshan, Pradyumna, Aniruddha. Then from Sankarshan comes Narayan. From Narayan comes the second quadruple expansion again of Vasudev, Sankarshan, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha. Then from the second quadruple expansion, from the second Sankarshan comes Mahavishnu. From Mahavishnu comes Garbhodakashay Vishnu. From Garbhodakashay Vishnu comes Shirodakashay Vishnu, or the Paramatma. So we can see this is the Paramatma. This Shirodakashay Vishnu is pervading all over the universe. He goes into the heart of every living entity, right from the smallest ant up to Lord Brahma. But before Shirodakashay Vishnu, there are so many expansions that are coming from Krishna. So just a part, a tiny spark of Krishna, with just that expansion, Krishna is maintaining the entire universe, Krishna says. So when we see this chart, right up to the second quadruple expansion, the second Vasudev, Sankarshan, Pradyumna, Aniruddha, up till there, these expansions do not mix or do not touch material nature. From Mahavishnu only, material nature is touched. So that's why we can say that Mahavishnu is Krishna's first expansion in the material world. Mahavishnu is the super soul of all universes. Garbhodakashay Vishnu is the super soul of the universe. And Shirodakashay Vishnu is the super soul of the living entities. Now, despite this, the conception is that Krishna is an avatar of Vishnu. This is what is widely believed. The reason why this belief exists is because now Vishnu is the maintainer. We know Brahma is the creator, Vishnu is the maintainer, and Shiva is the destroyer. Now, because Vishnu is the maintainer of the universe, whenever there is any disturbance in the universe, the demigods, they go and pray to Vishnu because he is in charge of maintenance. Yes. So therefore, they go and pray to Lord Vishnu, and then Vishnu says, yes, such a avatar will come to solve this particular problem. So the different incarnations of the Lord, they come through the gateway of Vishnu. But that doesn't mean that they are coming from Vishnu. Vishnu is only a gateway through which, through the agency of Vishnu, they are descending to the material realm. So therefore, people think that these avatars are avatars of Vishnu. But they're not avatars of Vishnu. It's just that Vishnu is the gateway for the descent of these avatars. So Krishna is an avatari. Krishna is not the avatar. Because he comes through the gateway of Vishnu, it appears like Krishna as the avatar. Let's read this.
Fixes mindfully in Krishna. Chapter 10 thoroughly describes different opulence and expansions of Krishna's energies, and thus one can fix one's mind in full Krishna consciousness. Baladev Vidyabhushan concludes chapter 10 by saying, from Krishna's potency energy, even the sun gets its power, and by Krishna's partial expansions, the whole world is maintained. Therefore, Lord Krishna is worshipable. Hare Krishna.
Let's see the summary of the chapter, verse-wise.
The opulence of the absolute. Beginning with the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna has explained his different energies, matter and spirit. Here in the 10th chapter, he explains to Arjun his specific opulences manifested in his all pervasive energies. Verse 1, Krishna tells Arjun that for his benefit he will speak that knowledge which is better than what he has already explained. Verse 2-7, Krishna begins by asserting that those who are wise, knowing him, the Supreme Lord and the original source of everything, are free from all reactions to sin. They engage themselves in pure motiveless devotional service to him. Verse 8 and 11, verse 8 to 11, traditionally known as the Chatur Shloka. These 4 verses are considered the essence of the Gita's teachings. Those who know Krishna as the Supreme Lord and fully surrender unto him in pure devotion are directly enlightened by him and show the way to attain him. Verse 9 describes sublime characteristics of such pure devotees, and in verses 10 to 11, Krishna dispels the ignorance of those who are so devoted and leads them to him. Hare Krishna. Verse 12 to 15, Arjun emphatically declares his acceptance of Krishna, of the supreme absolute truth, and his total acceptance of all that Krishna has thus far instructed. Verse 16 to 18, then he requests Krishna to describe in detail his divine opulences by which he pervades all these worlds and abides in them. Verses 19 to 41, Krishna's ensuing descriptions of his principal opulences continues to the conclusion of the chapter. Of light, he is the radiant sun; of bodies of water, the ocean; of movable things, the Himalayas. He is the wisdom of the wise, the strength of the strong, the splendor of the splendid, all wondrous, phenomenal, manifesting great power, beauty, grandeur, and subliminence. In the material of spiritual world, we are simply fragmental manifestations of his divine energies and opulence. Krishna, thus being the cause of all causes, is the supreme object of worship for all beings. Verse 42, in the final verse of the chapter, Krishna says more important than knowledge of his separate opulences is the understanding that these and all things exist due to his entering them as Super Soul Paramatma, by which he pervades and supports the entire universe. Hare Krishna.
So with this, by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada and Krishna, we come to the end of chapter number 10. Shri Srimad
Jai,
Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki
Right.
jai.
jai.
Thank you, Mataji. Koti koti dandavat pranam. Shri Nam Mataji ki jai. Shri Prabhupada Srila Gurudev ki jai. Shri Shri Bhakti Gita ki jai. Manchakalpatarubhasya Sindhamaya Patitanam Pavanam. Thank you, Mataji. Koti koti dandavat pranam. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Pranamataji.
So thank you all very much for being with us by Krishna's mercy. If Krishna so sanctions, next class we will begin chapter number 11, where Krishna shows the universal form. He's going to show his Virat Roop upon Arjuna's request again. The 11th chapter is the third longest chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. The longest chapter is the 18th chapter with 78 shlokas. Second chapter with 72 shlokas is the second longest. So now in the next class, we will begin the third longest chapter with 55 shlokas, chapter number 11. And once we finish chapter 11, then we will pick up speed because the chapters that come after that are relatively shorter before we touch upon the 18th chapter. So I think that we are on track to finish the course on time by Prabhupada's.
Mataji, will you repeat after 18 chapters of Bhagavad Gita are done? Will you again repeat Bhagavad Gita so we can again hear? I love it.
Yeah, I don't know yet if I will start it all over again because in my mind I want to do something for the children now. There are some people who have requested classes for children, so I may take up something for children in the meanwhile. I'm not very sure if I'll start with adults immediately after this. Probably at some future date, yes.
Or we can start with something different, like Bhagavatam or any,
Yeah, when
whatever you think
we
is.
will get to see you again after chapter 18, since we are not kids, so we can see you again.
We'll see what can be done. I myself have not decided yet what I'm going to do. Children, definitely I want to do something. Adults, I don't know, maybe not every week, but less frequency maybe, because time is a factor also for me. So let's see how it goes. I'm not very sure, but as far as Gita is there, all the recordings are there on YouTube, which you can watch at your convenience. But live sessions, we'll see how it goes. I don't know yet. So let's see how it goes.
Thank you, Mataji, for your presence and association.
Thank you for joining us.
We sit with all small kids. kids also, Mataji, not speaking single words.
Yes, yes.
We speak like this.
Okay,
Mataji, we can do
Okay.
Krishna with your permission if you are comfortable.
What Mataji? I didn't get you. What you want to do?
Krishna book, small story for kids.
Small stories for kids. Yes, but we have to yeah, it has to be done. The material has to be prepared, the slideshows. I have not prepared any material for that. So that's one thing that's on my mind.
Small
Here, no,
story.
we don't have a team. Like because here in Chile, the community of devotees, they are all Spanish speaking. So because I give classes in English, I pretty much have to do everything on my own. Not pretty much, actually everything. Correction of the papers, setting the question paper, the PPTs, the classes, everything. Because the devotee community here is Spanish speaking. So there is that, we are not a team like Bhakti Sangha. There are a team of devotees who do things right.
34, yes. One thing is divided, Mataji. Otherwise, everybody is working. It is hard, Mataji.
Yes, so here I don't have that good fortune yet. So that's why time is a factor. We'll see how it goes.
That whatever Srila Prabhupada, Srila Gurudev, Gopinath, Mercy, Mataji.
Yes, yes. We have to see what is discussed. Yeah, yeah. Okay. Anything else we have to discuss?
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna. All right then. Thank you all very much for joining. Hope to see you next week. Krishna willing, we will begin with chapter 11. Till then, have a nice week. Thank you for joining. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam, Mataji.
Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.
Pranam Mataji. Hare Krishna.